Hello everybody, Reggie Tam here with my 10th episode of my September social series where I'm trying to raise money for some local social clubs that provide social events for people with learning disabilities. The reason I'm producing a video so soon after the last one is I received another £15 in donations yesterday, taking the total donated up to £130, which means I needed to produce 4 more videos in 7 days, which might be a bit of a stretch in terms of being able to get loads of really super interesting hands. But we played a couple of sessions last night where we got enough, in my opinion, interesting hands to create another video. So that's what we're going to be reviewing today. If you haven't yet donated, this really is your absolute last chance to donate. I am taking £100 of the money to the Wednesday Club tomorrow night to donate to the to that group organizer, and then the rest of the money, which I'm going to top up to make it to £200, I'm going to take on October the 4th to the second club. So please get your donations as soon as possible. If any donations do come in tomorrow, I can probably still accept them. But I'd rather, if clear up, mop up any remaining donations in the next day or so, that would be wonderful. And I could just stick the money to one side and forget about continually asking you guys to dip your hand in your pocket, because for you guys who don't want to do it, I'm presuming it's quite annoying hearing me start every video with the plea for donations. So yeah, without further ado, let's get on with the hands. Again, same format as yesterday. We do have Sky player names in these replays. Someone has developed a little tool for me that converts Sky poker hand histories from their raw format, so they can just be inputted into poker hand replays. It does mean there are a few bugs with it. As you can see, stack sizes aren't always correct. Where they're not correct, I shall say at the start of the hand, and it does include screen names. I toyed with the idea of anonymizing them. You can do that on poker hand replays. You can anonymize it, but I think for the people who play on Sky, seeing some of the names they play against will make for a more entertaining video. If you do see yourself on the video and you'd rather your screen name wasn't on, please let me know, and I'll make sure I don't include any hands where I have played with you. If your name just turns up and you've not been involved in the hand, then no big deal, I guess. But if I do play a hand with you and you're not happy that I've reviewed the hand, please do let me know, and I shall ensure that any hands played with you going forward won't be reviewed in this way. I don't intend to be derogatory towards anybody, but sometimes people are going to play badly in a hand, and I include myself in that, and they maybe always won't come out of it looking too well. So yeah, without further ado, let's move on with the hands. This was like one of the first hands of the session, and it's set like last night's session was it was in 2 parts. It was like an early session, break, post midnight session, and I think I tried to do the hands as chronologically as possible. They're not quite in order chronologically, but they kind of gives you a feeling of like how the session started for me and how the session finished for me. And yeah, we'll just go from there. So we wake up with the aces under the gun. We 3x as we should. We get squeezed by someone who I think's probably a decent regular. I haven't played very much with him. I know he certainly plays at least 50 now, possibly higher. I'm not sure. He has been known to 3-bet light on occasion, which most good regulars do. This isn't a spot where you expect him to be 3-betting like they're squeezing against myself, Conga, who's a tight regular, and then this very small stacked player on the button. He just really can't have any bluffs here, given the presence of this guy and his stack size. So when I take that into account, I think, like, do I want to just flat here, or do I want to 4-bet? I don't think there's that much point in flatting in this spot, because I just don't think he's going to have too many like weak hands in his range. So I'm not worried about keeping his bluffs in by flatting to keep his bluffs in, because I just don't think he's going to have many bluffs because of the presence of the guy with no money on the button. So I did elect to go with the 4-bet because he's made it like quite big. Not dead big, but like 14 blinds. I'm not sure these stacks are entirely right. It felt like he'd made it a tiny bit bigger than that. Maybe this like £4.50 or something. I'm not entirely sure this is right, but because he'd made it a little bit bigger, I never like 4-betting more than like 30 big blinds unless, it's an all-in. So it's kind of made it, but we could only really make quite a small 4-bet. And I didn't make it that small. You better see in a moment when his money goes in. That looks like more like the kind of size we made it. Why it's 776 there and 851 there. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe Richard could look into that. I think maybe I've raised 776 on top of my first 90, maybe. So maybe I made it 876, and then he's called the 851 plus his 15 from the small blinds. That makes sense. So it looks like I've made this like £8.76, which is whatever, 29 big blinds, something like that. And he's called. So it's all good. At this point, I'm thinking he's probably got hands like pocket jacks, pocket queens, not too many other hands. I mean, I don't really know how wide he's going to be like calling these small four bet out of position. Maybe stuff like King Queen suit could be in there too, given we've made it quite small. Not sure. Anyways, pretty happy with the situation, of course. We get a dream flop. He shouldn't have any of these hands in his 3-bet range, maybe pocket tens, but he shouldn't have pocket fours or pocket sevens. So it feels like it's a really clean flop. We go with like the pretty small C bet, which I think is completely standard. And that opponent just calls, turns the king, checks. And I didn't like the king when it came off. I mean, he does have, like some combinations of pocket kings. I think ace king probably just gets it in pre. So it felt like when the king came off, it's going to make it hard for us to get action now from like two jacks, two queens, etc. Don't think he has ace king. So I didn't like the king very much. But I think we just need to jam anyway and just hope sometimes he has the king queen once in a while or has the ace king once in a while. So we did go with the jam. He snap called. And he didn't have one king, he had two kings, which was quite disappointing for us. But I'm sure quite delightful for him. And yeah, he won that first pot, and that was like a really shit start to the session. I don't like it when sessions get off to a bad start. I tend to get a little bit down on myself early on, especially if you lose a stack at like the biggest stake you play. When you're like me and you play 10-0, 20-0, and 30-0, if you lose a stack at 10-0 at the start of the session, you don't really care because it's easy to make that back at 20 and 30-0. If you lose a stack at 30-0, and then you play the rest of your big pots at maybe 10-0, for example, it makes it much harder to like get your session back into profit. And I know it doesn't matter session by session, like I know the cash games are just one long game, but we're all subject to like mental frailties, and I don't like going down £30 right off the bat. And then you kind of the rest of your session is just going to be like try to dig yourself out of a hole. It's not that likely that you're going to be able to put up like a decent winning session anymore. You could just get in something of a low mood, which can sometimes happen to me. I know it shouldn't happen. It's certainly a mental game problem that I'm trying to work on. Quite often, if I get off to a bad start and the game's turn bad, I can easily just quit, not care, write it off. But if there's decent games but they're at a lower stake, it's kind of like, oh, fuck me. The 13-0 games just broke. The only decent table was at 13-0's broke. Now we're faced with like 4 10-0 tables and one 20-0 table. And we're in a £35 hole. Fuck my life kind of thing. It shouldn't be like that. Our mental game shouldn't be that weak. My mental game, typically, I like to think is pretty strong. But yeah, these are situations that certainly make me just think like, fuck me, we're going to be wading through treacle for the rest of the session. So it's never nice to start that way. And we're going to get felted. I'd much rather it was towards the end of a session so we can just close it down, wrap it up, and not give a fuck. Getting felted in your higher stakes games at the start of a session is, what I like to call in my house, a bit of a cunt. And that's certainly what that was then. So anyways, on to the next hand. We have the 4-3 suited on the button. And I'm not a big fan of what I've done here. We've isolated this player. We need to pause here. This player was a light blue tagged player. Didn't really have many notes on him. I just had him tagged light blue, which means he probably just plays wide ranges, very wide ranges. I think isolating people who play very wide ranges with 3-4 suited probably isn't the wisest thing to do. I think in position, we could just overlimp there. I don't think we need to isolate. I mean, I want to play the hand 3-4 suited. It's a pretty hand. It's a hand that I want to play in position against a fish. I think we could maybe just overlimp though. We have Conger in the small blind who isn't going to isolate wide from that position. And we have a loose passive player in the big blind. So I think overlimping would have been much better here than isolating. But we did go with isolation. And we get called in 2 spots. up a flush draw on a paired board. Pretty good situation. We go with the small bet again. Not sure I love that sizing against two like loose-ish players. Don't think we're going to get that many folds. We're not intending to get many folds on this flop. I guess that wasn't really my intention. I mean, this bet's kind of wishy-washy, isn't it? I think we'd just as well check it back as we're using this sizing. I think the plan here was like bet this size, then start building a pot in case we hit, or building a bigger pot that we can steal on later streets if some high cards come. That's kind of the plan. But again, in this situation, I don't think it really merits using this sizing against these two players. I think it's pretty bad, to be honest with you. Not happy with the play. Our opponent calls. Turn the king, so we get to execute our plan now. And then we go with an overbet here, which I don't mind. For it to be a little bit bigger, it's only a small overbet. I think this gets folds from all these like pocket pairs, ace highs and things. Most of the time at this size, but I wouldn't mind it going a little bit bigger even. If he's in there with like pocket fours, pocket fives, etc. And really could do with encouraging him to fold. I don't think he's going to have very much King X in his range, but because we only bet so small on the flop, we can't rule it out. This hand's basically an all-round clusterfuck. Our opponent calls again. At this point, I'm thinking, we need to hit here. We do hit. We hit the 4. And in hindsight, I think we should probably bluff again. I don't think the 4 gives us enough showdown value. I think, maybe he's still in there with pocket 6s, pocket 7s, pocket 9s, that type of thing that we just don't have that much showdown value against. I mean, of course, we block any flush draws he can have, so it's less likely it's going to be in there with like an ace high or like a 9 high flush draw, something like that. I mean, I guess you can have the 9 high flush draws. I'm talking bollocks there. But basically, because we have 2 diamonds, I think it's less likely he has a flush draw, more likely he has like a relatively weak made hand a lot of the time. And I don't think the 4 gives us enough showdown value. I think I should probably just go all in here, which is not what I did. But I think this is a badly played hand all round from me. I think from pre-flop, the isolation is too wide. The flop c-bet's too small. I think the turn's okay. Then the rubber check back's bad. I think we should jam here to put massive pressure on his pocket pairs or his pairs that aren't a king. Basically, whether if he has a hand like pocket jacks or pocket 10s, whether he folds that is very debatable. But all these pairs between like pocket 3s and pocket 7s are going to fold in a heartbeat, you would imagine, to an all in. But we didn't. We just checked back and gave up. And as it happens, he had a hand he was never going to fold. So I think I played that hand just about as badly as I possibly could. And I guess, given how badly I played it, I was lucky to only lose around like 35 blinds in the hand. But that was possibly, not possibly. It was, probably one of the worst hands you'll see me play for the rest of the month. I mean, it's hard to knock any of the decisions in isolation. Every one of them's got some kind of merit, but when you string them all together, it's just one giant clusterfuck. But never mind. These things happen. Probably something to do with the fact that we lost the pot early on and maybe I was trying too hard to try and get the session back on track. Definitely could be an element of that in there. As I said, I think the Milton game's pretty good, but I'm not a fucking robot, and sometimes we don't play that well when we've been our sessions got off to a bad start. So this time we started with £20 or more, but the replayer doesn't show us starting with £20 or more. We have Anna in the big blind, small blind, sorry. Very solid 20 now regular. Don't think she gets out of line too much. I just think she's just solid. Very good at exploiting, similar to me, very good at exploiting the weaker players and getting good value from them. And certainly competes well against the regulars. It's never good to see Anna at your table. She don't think she goes out of her way to get out of line, but you'd rather someone else was in the seat than Anna. Anyways, she has 3-bet. We defend pocket 9s. She c-bets small, trivial call. She bets the turn, and I don't expect Anna to have too many bluffs here. I mean, maybe I've got her all wrong, but I don't expect it just to be airballing that often here with like an ace jack or a ace king. I don't think that does this too often. I was kind of hoping here that she just had like the ace, queen, aces, kings, maybe some jack tens, maybe some king jacks, that type of thing. Basically, I didn't think she had too many bet folds in her range on this turn. If she's got three queens versus the three nines, then it's just going to be unlucky for us, and we're gonna lose the full load. But crucially, I didn't think she had too many bet folds in her range on this turn. She kind of already put 50% of her stack in, so I just jammed at this point, thinking there's no way she's going to get away from like pocket aces, pocket kings, ace queen, king queen, all those types of things. Especially if she ever watches my videos and she saw like the she watched the king queen hand from yesterday, where she probably knows I'm capable of spewing here with some semi bluffs, etc. Not that she knows that or not, but maybe she does. So yeah, I went with the jam, assuming she was committed, and I was wrong. She wasn't committed. She found the fold. So I'm guessing maybe she did just have some random bluffs there, but never mind. We can only like deal with the information that's available to us at the time, and I thought she was strong. Maybe she was strong. Maybe she made like just a really good fold. Who knows? Be interested to see if you do watch this, Anna, what you did have in that hand. I'd be interested to know. Don't expect you to tell me, but I'd be interested anyway. Right, on to the next hand. We have two aces in the small blind. Been a limp from a player that I couldn't figure out. He seemed to be playing quite tight. I think he's only playing one table, but he had a big stack, and there didn't seem like, apart from like open limping occasionally, didn't see him making too many mistakes. So I think it's like maybe just like a tight recreational player. This player Slayer. And then we have the Facebook group member Charlie for King Donk, isolating to 4x, which could be anything. We have two aces in the small blind, so we pop it up as we should. The limper gets out of the way. Charlie calls. Pretty safe flop. Small C bet. Charlie's, in my opinion, pretty aggressive player. I think he's definitely got some moves. I think he'd certainly knows I'm quite the nit. I expect, and I could be wrong here, but I expect him to try and get out of line versus me sometimes. Given the way he sometimes plays against me, I'm not that sure he's a big respecter of my game. I suspect he probably thinks I'm some kind of like pretty old nit who could be pushed around a bit, and to a large extent he's right. I don't blame him for that. That's not a criticism. It just feels like Charlie thinks he's got my measure, and maybe he has, maybe he hasn't, but he does some things against me that makes me think that he's definitely trying to exploit me, which again is as he should do. If he thinks he has a read on me and a read on situations against me, he should absolutely be trying to exploit me. So none of that's a criticism of Charlie. It's just my read on our dynamic, and I could be so wrong with that. But that's just how it feels when we're in game. Anyway, we met the small C bet. Don't expect Charlie to like bluff raise here. I think he's good enough to like not take this bait and just play his ranges sensibly from this point forward. But he has called the 3-bet pre-flop. You can have some draws here for sure, some like 10-9 suited, Queen Jack suited, 10-Jack suited, all those types of things. He maybe wants to raise them sometime, a non-zero percentage of the time. So I thought I'd go with the small bet. Charlie raises, we just pile in on him. If he calls, then we'll see what develops. He did call. Turn is not the greatest of cards, but by some he's not a dreadful card. But it's not the kind of card that I want to like double barrel on very often versus people who I think maybe like to get out of line against me. I wanted to like check here. Because we have the ace of clubs, I think it's much less dangerous. With a check here, give Charlie the chance to stab, and then we could just jam it in his eye. And if he's got us beat, then we have equity. If he's betting like weaker hands for protection, then we've got him beat. If he's betting kind of air, then we get to frustrate him. I think overall this is a card my range definitely wants to be checking on. But because we have the ace of clubs, I was happy to go with like a check shove line. Charlie did not oblige. And then the king came on the river, and I checked again. Because at this point, I wanted to just try and rep something like an ace queen, an ace jack, that type of thing where Charlie might. Well, they didn't expect me to be able to bet this river and get called by worse that often, because I'd be bet if I'm going to bet, it's going to be an all in. I didn't expect to be able to get called by worse that often. I expect if Charlie has a hand like queens or jacks, he probably four bets them pre at least some of the time. Then if he does have them and doesn't four bet them pre, you probably bet some on that turn. So I kind of thought Charlie was not that strong. So I didn't think we were going to get, like, he's going to have enough hands to call us with if we jam the river. So I checked again, hoping to just like represent an ace jack and ace queen type hand. Maybe Charlie tries to value bet versus that with a weaker hand than two aces. Maybe sometimes he just thinks we're weak and goes for the bluff. So he went all in pretty quickly. I didn't take too long to think about it. Called. Pretty confident that I had the best hand given how the turn played out, and it turned out we did. Charlie was unfortunate to make top pair on the river and value jam, which I think he probably should do there. It's just unlucky for him that I had one of the few hands that I can have in that spot that has him beat. His next hand. This was a funny one. It's just a 10-L hand. It's been two limpers. I pop it up to 8 blinds. This guy goes all in. This dude calls, and he literally does just have like, maybe the hands are not exactly right, but he has very little behind. We are talking pence behind here, and this isn't a glitch in the hand history. We go all in, and this dude literally has pence behind and decides to fold them, and presumably it must have been a misclick. I mean, what else could it have been? But I was quite happy to see the fold and then get heads up with all this dead money in the pot. I didn't expect it, but I liked it. Well, sorry, yeah, no, I didn't expect it. Once he called his jam, I didn't expect to see the fold. Sorry, of course we can expect to see him fold a lot. Like when we just make it 8x and he jams, expect him to fold there. But once he overcalls the 60 blind jam, you don't expect him to fold for literally like 3 or 4 blinds more. It must have been a misclick. I was delighted to see it. Then I was delighted to see the ace roll off, and one back for the good guys. Here we have the 2 jacks. Again, stack sizes out right here. Wubsy is a mass tabling, mostly 10-0, sometimes 20-0 player. He's doing very well in the rake races. Just a solid, decent player. We 3-bet the jacks, of course, because we're supposed to 3-bet jacks versus most people in these games. And this Gooner 1961, he had just about a full stack. It says naught there because he's about to just called 4-bet jam, which is like one of the bugs in the hand histories that's hopefully going to be fixed for the next video. I think Richard's put the fix in for it now. I had him tagged as green. I don't know very much about him, but he has Gooner in his name, and I genuinely don't think I've ever seen a player with Gooner in the name that I thought, yeah, you're a really good player. There's some moderate players that have Gooner in the name, and there's a lot of really bad players that have Gooner in the name. If there are one reliable name tell in the whole world, it is not just Gooner. Anyone with like a football type reference in the name is generally going to be shit, but Gooner seems to be particularly shit, and I don't think this guy made any difference to that. I seen him playing some hands later on. At the time when we'll play the hand through, he goes all in for like 10 quid. We call with the jacks, expecting to see ace king and stuff a lot. He turned up with the aces, blah blah blah. Who cares? And at the time, I was thinking to myself, really, did we have to call there with the jacks? I think we probably do. Could be wrong. Didn't know anything about him. But I saw him play later on, and he was like getting it all in pretty loose. Not necessarily pre-flop, to be fair, but he didn't seem... If I'd known then what I know now about him, I'd have been super happy with the call, not cared. I'd have been fine with it. Well, I remember thinking at the time, did we need to do that, Reggie? Did we really need to do that, Reggie? If that was 30 now, would you have called? If that was 50 now, would you have snap called? I was a bit disappointed in myself, thinking you've only called because it's 10 and it's only a tenner. Who cares? I kind of thought at the time it was a mistake based on the fact that I maybe wouldn't have called 100 big blinds off pre-flop with jacks, having just committed like 9 big blinds at 20 or 30. So I was a bit annoyed with myself on that score, But given what I saw later and what I know now, I think it's fine. So I'll move on to the next, and this is now moved on to the later session. I think that maybe that jacks us from the later session too. All these hands going forward now are from my second session of the evening. We have this player who's playing kind of weirdly, hip shooter, and then Tissy Lou, who I think is a regular, but they're not tagged, or certainly tight anyway, if not a regular type player. We just complete in the small blind, or we called it in the small blind. Just mainly to play a pot with this player. I mean, calling ace-3 suited out of the small blind versus a raise is not something I do very often at all. We do have Big Orc in the big blind who is maybe prone to squeezing a little bit there. So we do risk getting squeezed and not even seeing a flop. But I just really wanted to play a pot with this guy, and I was willing to make what's possibly a losing call pre-flop in order to play a pot post flop with a player who I think is pretty bad. We flop the wheel. Checks to Tissy Lou, who bets. We put a check raise in immediately. It's a kind of board we're going to be wanting to check raise a lot. We're going to have lots of two pairs, sets, straights, flush draws, straight draws, etc. So if we're going to be wanting to check raise a lot of our flush draws and our straight draws, then we're going to be wanting to have a decent mix of nutted hands in there too. And this is a hand that can definitely get lots of calls from worse hands and could use quite a bit of protection on this board too, since like any flush card we don't have the nuts anymore. If a 4 to a straight card comes up, we don't have the nuts anymore, etc. So I wanted to try and get the money in now if I could, and if we couldn't get the money in now, just build a big pot and then make some big bets on brick turns. We do get called, and we don't get the brick turn. We get the board pair and the flush coming in, but I didn't, as you can see, it's gone through too quickly. Didn't want to just start checking here and just like allowing him to check back with all his over pairs, take free cards with his diamonds, etc. If he's in there with like a hand like pocket tens, pocket nines, pocket eights, I just didn't believe on the flop. I don't want him checking through, especially if those contain a diamond and just giving him a free shot at making a boat or a flush. So we bet again. And he called. So at this point, I'm kind of thinking he's probably in the pocket pair sort of area, like medium pocket pairs with flush draws, etc., that type of thing. And I pretty much I hate my river line here on the king. I think we could maybe have a block bet for sure, just like block bet our straight. You know, if we just bet like anything in the region of like 30 to 40% pot here, trivial fold to a raise. I mean, the reason I don't like necessarily doing that all the time, especially against like players who I think might be half decent, is if they know we're just block betting here. I mean, it just gives them license to jam with any two, especially if they have any like decent blockers. And if it's like the ace of diamonds in his hand, for example, just gives him the option to just like jam with that. No, we can never have a strong, like super strong hand. Whether players are that creative, I don't know, because I'm capable of doing it. Maybe sometimes I think other people are capable of doing it too, and some players definitely are. But is the pool capable of doing it that often? Maybe not. But I didn't want to block bet here. Didn't want to jam. So I checked, expecting him just to check back those middle pairs. I'd have been happy taking this pot down, you know. But I think what I actually did was like the worst of all the options. I checked. He snap went all in, and I snap called. And I don't like that. If we're going to, I just don't like the check jam here. What is he jamming? In maybe once in a while 5x. You know, if he's in there with like a hand like 5-6 or something like that. You know, we beat that, but I don't love my line. I like the flop line. I like the turn line. I think his river line's fucking horrendous, to be honest with you. I think block folding's much better than check calling and all in, given that I think a lot of his range is going to be medium pocket pairs. That he's just not going to turn into a bluff. So my read was he's probably got medium pocket pairs, and then I paid off in a spot where he's not going to be doing it with those medium pocket pairs. And it turns out he didn't have a medium pocket pair. He just had the nut flush. And yeah, nice hand for him. Happy with the way I played the hand until the river, which I thought was fucking horrendous. On to the next time, we have two aces. We 3-bet Liam Boy, who's a long-term regular in these games. Everyone decides they want to come along. Both these players were, I mean, this is the guy we talked about in the last time, not playing very well. This is a different table. And this guy's like light blue tagged. Liam now makes it £8.20. And the only question here is, do we just call, try and get these other dudes coming along, or do we just like shut the door now, jam? Because Liam's probably never folding here. I'm presuming he's got like pocket kings, pocket aces, pocket kings, pocket queens, etc. We block ace king pretty hard, so I was kind of thinking more he had pocket pairs than ace king. Don't think he has a bluff and chooses this size. It seems like a bonkers size to use as a bluff. So do we like call, bring the other guys in, or we just jam now and expect Liam to just call with all his worst hands? I got greedy. We went with the call, and it worked to an extent. Say flop, Liam checks. I jam, expecting Liam to call with like pretty much most of his range, and he folds. He told me after the hand, he didn't tell me what he had, but he said the minute I called, he knew I had aces, and I kind of knew I was telegraphing my hand up, but I wanted the other two guys into. And I guess I was willing to take the chance that Liam didn't put the rest of the money in post flop. He didn't. It was obvious he had aces. He said he would have had a side call pre flop if it jammed. Of course he would, given that he made it like 40 odd blinds pre flop. So I think we definitely did lose some value there. How much I don't know, because had we jammed pre, we wouldn't have got the extra £5 or £6 from this dude. So I don't think we lost loads of money. I mean, maybe if we jam pre, he still just fucking piles it in. But I think if he sees like a 4-bet to £8 and an all-in, maybe he doesn't put his last bit of money in there. Obviously, I would have won more from Liam than I would from him. But that's just playing results. I think if I had the same situation again, I would do exactly the same thing. And it still turned out okay. We dragged down a reasonable pot with 2 aces. So this is going to be the last hand of the video. We have Miles here, who's like a 20-30 regular. Pretty difficult to play against. He's quite aggressive. I think he's decent. We have pocket fours in the big blind, and we had a pretty big blue tag fish in the small blind. So we had a pretty blue tag fish in the big blind, which is nice. We flopped the full house. Miles is aggressive. So I went with the small check raise here because I know he is aggressive. This is like a very player specific thing. I guess some players here who are known to be aggressive, I would just check call and let them like bet turns and then maybe bet rivers. But Miles is, I've played enough like pots with him that to know he can like see this kind of aggression and get out of line versus it. So I was kind of check raising here, hoping he would just like be more aggressive with me. You know, thinking like, would I really check raise a 9 here, for example? Probably not. You know, if I'm like reg logic, if you will, like, what does my check raising range look like here? It looks like a fair bit of bullshit, like 9x. You know, why would I raise a 9? Why would I raise pocket fours? Typical logic is like, we flopped a strong hand, call, allow your opponent's plus to stay in. I think Mars kind of thinks along those lines a little bit when he sees me make a small raise here. I think he's capable of like thinking to himself, well, that's bullshit. Don't believe that. And then like maybe turn some of his ranges into a bluff. You know, if he has I don't know what he can have here, but just some random stuff he's c-betting. I think he's a sort of player who is creative enough and aggressive enough to just turn up with hands here that you wouldn't expect him to turn up with, and just continue being like really aggressive with them. That was the plan. I was hoping he would like 3-bet here. Then I would probably just call then, depending on his sizing. But that's getting too far ahead. He just calls. Turns to 3. I bet. Kind of. I want you what size to make it here. I think if we go small, it looks like real bullshit. I check raise this flop. Bet small on the turn. They were a bit too big. That doesn't give him room to bluff. If we'd have bet say £8 here. I mean, I was hoping to like induce some kind of spew from Miles. With the whole line was just designed to induce spew. So like make a smallish turn barrel, which can. I was hoping to make it look like a cheap bluff rather than anything else, and just induce him to put some more money in. That was the plan. He did make the raise pretty damn big. And all of a sudden, when this happened, I was like, fuck, are we up against quads here? Or can he just have like a 9 and do this? Of course, he can just have a 9. He can have like ace 9, 10, 9, king 9. There's so much 9x he can have. But because I'm a paranoid fuckwit, I kind of started thinking, fuck, we're up against quads, we're up against quads. But given that he's like pretty much committed himself at this point, I just jammed the money in and thought if he's got the quads, he's got the quads. He does call. So at this point, we kind of know he has at least 9x. We just hope it's not the quads. And he actually had just a pocket fives, which, I think him having that hand justified my line throughout the hand. And this isn't like after timing and rewriting history from me. I mean, I didn't think he would have pocket fives and do this, of course, but all the things that I talked about making the small check raise, making like the weakish looking turn barrel, but not making it so small, all those things, it was like, in my opinion, as much as the 4-3 suited earlier, I thought I played badly. I thought this was a well-crafted hand against an opponent I feel I know pretty well. I was really quite pleased with myself how this hand went down. I played the hand to induce this kind of thing. Didn't expect him to turn up with pocket fives. When he raises the turn with pocket fives, I kept maybe expecting to do that, but then I wouldn't expect him to necessarily call with them. I guess he just felt committed at that point and didn't want me to just semi-bluff him with some flush draws, etc. I guess. But yeah, I was really very pleased with this hand. I'd been up playing till like 3 a.m. or whatever. I was tired, but I was suddenly just left with 2 tables. But there were 2 tables that were worth being at, and I was really pretty pleased with myself that we'd managed to still be playing like 7 hours after the start of our first session, maybe 8 hours after the start of our first session. We maybe put like a 6-hour session in over 2 sessions, and I was still capable of, like, despite having a moderate session and like at this point until this hand being slightly stuck for it, at the end of a like long and moderate session, I was still capable of like thinking critically and going with my reads and crafting a hand like this. And I do think, I mean, crafting's, it's a nice word, isn't it? I do think this is like I think I played this hand well, to be honest with you, against this specific opponent. And yeah, I was just pleased with it, basically. And if I'm going to criticise myself with like the 4-3s and sometimes be a bit harsh on myself, I don't think it hurts too much to go the other side. And when I think I played a hand really well, to say that too. Is it GTO this hand? Probably not. But is it a well put together hand with the lines taken specifically to target what I believe are an opponent's weaknesses? Yes, it is, and it worked out perfectly. And I think I'm entitled to be pleased about that, and I am pleased about that. So that's it. That's going to be the end of the video. There's no more hands to see. As you can see, with like 7 seconds to go. We're not going to get another hand in within 7 seconds. Hope you guys have enjoyed it again. Please leave comments if you have any comments to make. Please leave donations if you've got any donations to make that you've been hanging off making. And we're back again in a couple of days with some more videos. I owe 3 more videos to channel after this. I'm only going to have 5 days to reduce them in. Don't think we're going to get it all in, but I'll certainly try my best. If we get enough volume in and we get enough interesting hands, every time I have 10 hands that I think are worth reviewing, I'll make a video. And if we get those 30 hands in before the end of the month, great. If we don't, then I'll have given it a good shot. But we'll leave it there for now. Take care, everybody, and bye-bye for now. Bye-bye, people.